Okay, well, we got ourselves a trade. I thought I was going to be done making videos today, but this trade came down, and it's a doozy. These three-way trades are always very, very complicated. And for some reason, they always seem to involve Ottawa. This time around, or last time we had a three-way trade, it was the Steve Duchesne trade. Sorry, Matt Duchesne. Steve Duchesne. It's an old defenseman from the 90s. Matt Duchesne. This time around, the key player, or the trade that this is referring to, is what they're calling the Derick Brassard trade, because he's the key player. But there's a lot going on here, so let's get into it. First of all, 1, 2, 3 teams involved are Pittsburgh, Ottawa, and Vegas. And of course, Ottawa's at the center of this whole mess. Okay, starting with Pittsburgh. They get Derick Brassard from Ottawa. They also get Vincent Dunn. And from Vegas, Pittsburgh gets Tobias Lindberg, forward. From Pittsburgh, we have Ian Cole, Philip Gustafson, a goaltender, a couple of draft picks, and 40% of Derick Brassard's salary does stay with Ottawa. And I believe it, according to what I read, it's just the remainder of this year's salary, 40% of it. And then from Vegas to Pittsburgh, or from Pittsburgh to Vegas, goes Ryan Reeves and a draft pick. All right, so details. Derick Brassard obviously is the best player in this trade, and this trade was going down for quite some time today. Started hearing about it mid-afternoon, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, somewhere in that area, our time. And it didn't get finalized until, well, I was watching the Pittsburgh-Carolina game tonight, and it was about midway through the third period when the Carolina announcers announced the trade had been finalized and details would be coming out shortly. So it took several hours for this trade to come through, and I saw an interview with Pittsburgh's GM, Jim Rutherford, saying that this is the most complex trade he's ever done, and there were a lot of pieces involved, and they thought they had it done earlier today, but they had to go back because something wasn't kosher. So because a lot of the movement here has a lot to do with salary cap implications too. So anyway, the best player in this trade overall, as of right now, is Derick Brassard. Basically, he comes in, he got 58 games, 38 points so far this year. He'll be slotted in that number 3 center role, probably, with Pittsburgh, behind Malkin and Crosby. He'll be that number 3 center, which really makes Pittsburgh a very, very scary team. More scary than they already are, because they beat the pants off of Carolina tonight, and the fact that they're just going to get better by adding Brassard should have every team in the NHL scared to death right now. And it should, after this trade, you should start seeing the trade market really start to fire up over the weekend. To a point where you may not even see a whole lot going down on Monday, because everybody's trying to make their moves now and get ahead of the curve. So Brassard goes to Pittsburgh from Ottawa. The other player going from Ottawa to Pittsburgh is Vincent Dunn. He's 22-year-old. I don't even know if you want to call him a prospect, but he's, I guess, a prospect. He's got no NHL experience. He's spent some time in the AHL and ECHL this year. Most notably known for penalty minutes, because he's only played 17 games in the AHL, 16 in the ECHL, and he's gotten more penalty minutes than games played, which tells you that he spends a fair amount of time in the box in those leagues. And then the other player coming from Vegas to Pittsburgh is another prospect, Tobias Lindberg, another AHL player. He's only got 6 games of NHL career games played, with just 2 assists, no goals yet, as of yet. But he's still young. He's only 22. He spent most of his time in the AHL so far this year. 48 games played, 18 points. So a couple of prospects and Brassard go to Pittsburgh. All right, going to Ottawa, taking a closer look, Ian Cole is probably the biggest player going to Ottawa, coming from Pittsburgh. He's a 29-year-old veteran defenseman, 17-18. He has 47 games played, 13 points, so he's kind of a stay-at-home guy, only 3 goals. He's got 385 career games and a lot of playoff games played. But at this point, Ian Cole will probably not, well, he definitely won't be playing in the playoffs this year. But he kind of fills in that spot vacated by Dion Phaneuf a couple of weeks ago. So, and then the other player that Pittsburgh got, he's actually probably the bigger prize of the two. Philip Gustafsson, a goaltender. He's only 19 years old. He hasn't played yet in the NHL. He's played in Sweden this year, 18 games played, 2.16 goals against, .917 save percentage. I can't exactly tell you where that fits in with the rest of the goalies in that league, but from what I understand, he's a pretty highly sought of, or a pretty highly thought of prospect, and that should, if that is the case, if he is a future NHL goalie in the making, there's your answer for your future in net for Ottawa, because Anderson is certainly not getting any younger. So they'll be definitely giving him a look, probably over the summer at the very least, and into the fall in training camp. And then, of course, going back to Ottawa is a 2018 first-round pick and a 2019 third-round pick from Pittsburgh. And then, of course, Ottawa retains 40% of that salary. And the salaries, the whole salary is $5 million, so they would retain 40% of that. But that's just for the season. Now, the first-round pick, before you get all excited, Ottawa fans, keep in mind it's Pittsburgh's first-round pick, which, if they go deep in the playoffs again this year, is going to be north of the 25th pick, probably even close to 30, 31 if they go all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So it's certainly not going to be a top 10 pick by any stretch. But a first-round pick is a first-round pick nonetheless. It's just going to be towards the tail end of the first round. All right, so lastly, coming from Vegas, you have Ryan Reeves, or from Pittsburgh going to Vegas, you have Ryan Reeves, another veteran forward. This year has 58 games played and 8 points, but he has 84 penalty minutes, so he's a grit and grime kind of guy, which should fit right in with Vegas. They seem to like those types of players, and they seem to do well with those types of players. But he does have 477 games in his career and lots of penalty minutes and also lots of playoff experience. So that'll come in handy for Vegas as they embark on their first ever playoff experience in the NHL, because they're going to need grit and grinder type of guys. And then the other piece that they got from Pittsburgh is the 2018 fourth-round pick from Pittsburgh. So that's a lot to digest. So let me go ahead and reset the camera and we can talk more about it. Okay. All right. Digesting this whole trade, you want to ask, or you ask, who is the winner in this whole thing? Who's the loser? In the short term, right now, Pittsburgh is the winner. They get the best player, individual, as of right now, player in this particular trade in Derick Brassard. Long term, it's a good move for Ottawa because not only they get this first-round pick, they get a third-round pick and a decent goaltender prospect for the long term in exchange for Derick Brassard. Vegas is kind of a small player in this whole deal, whereas from the reports that I had heard, they essentially needed to get Vegas involved in order to keep Pittsburgh in salary cap, keep them out of trouble with the salary cap, we'll put it that way. So you have, Vegas, basically the players that changed hand was, if you look at it this way, Ryan Reeves in a fourth, for Tobias Lindbergh. Those were pretty much, ultimately, when it comes down to it, the players that change hands there. So in the near term, Pittsburgh wins big. Vegas wins slightly because they get a veteran forward to add to their lineup for the playoff run. Pittsburgh gets Derick Brassard to really give them a good shot at basically shoring up their whole third-line center situation. So, I don't know. I see Pittsburgh in this case being the clear winner for this season, and for future seasons, I see Ottawa as being the clear winner in this one. And Vegas is just kind of a participant that they needed to, both teams needed to make sure that this trade goes through and stays under the cap. So, but if you look at the trade on Cap Friendly, they break it down 3 different ways, and I've got it right over here looking at it. First and foremost, it's a 3-part trade, so there's 3 different trades in this whole transaction. First and foremost, Vegas and Ottawa. That's the first part of the trade. And Vegas gives Ottawa Tobias Lindbergh. And then Ottawa gives Vegas Derick Brassard, Vincent Dunn, and a 2018 third-round pick. Okay. Then Vegas turns around and gives Pittsburgh Derick Brassard, Vincent Dunn, and a third-round pick, which belongs to Ottawa. And then Vegas gets in return Ryan Reeves and a 2018 fourth-round pick, which is actually a pick that belongs or once belonged to Vancouver, but it was a pick that Pittsburgh had gotten in the past. All right, and then part 3 of the trade is between Pittsburgh and Ottawa, and Ottawa gives Pittsburgh Tobias Lindbergh. Pittsburgh gives Ottawa Ian Cole, Philip Gustafson, the 2018 first-round pick, and a 2019 third-round pick. So there it is. So let me know what your thoughts on this trade are. My initial thought is Pittsburgh just got a whole lot better tonight. Vegas got a little bit better tonight for their playoff run. And Ottawa is going to be better for it in the long run, even though they lose Derick Brassard for now. So, but let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And if you like this video, click like. If you really liked it and you want to see more analysis of stuff like this, go ahead and click subscribe, and I'll be sure to work on that. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.